Before we start, I think thank you very much. Welcome to everybody who's coming into this webinar, which is organized by Lesperssi. Thank you very much for all those distinguished speaker, which is come from Moscow and also from the USA, and also here in Indonesia from Ambassador Yuddy, and also Your Excellency Mr. Vasyl and Mr. Lyle Goldstein from Munadhil and also Munadhil. I think I will like short introduction from this speaker. Professor Lyle is currently director of Asia Engagement in Defense Priorites, a think tank in US. And next to Mr. Munadhil, I think he just got his PhD in communication. He's studying his PhD in UDN Moscow, right? Munadhil. And then come Ambassador Yuddy. He's formerly ambassador in Ukraine from 2017 until 2021. Welcome, Ambassador Yuddy. Apa kabar? Sudah lama. And also Mr. Vasyl is currently the Ukraine ambassador in Jakarta. I think this is very I think it's very prominent speaker. All that we are very honored that we host this virtual discussion in the next 1 hour. Exchange idea and what's going on in the Ukraine right now. And I think I will give you each speaker maximum 5 minutes opening remark. I would like to welcome His Excellency Mr. Vasyl Hamianin to give his opening speech 5 minutes, and then be next to Pak Yuddy and then Lyle and Munadhil. The floor is yours, Mr. Vasyl Hamianin. Welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. I'll follow in English, right? So thank you very much for this opportunity. And first of all, I would like to say to everyone, here in this group, we have the protecting angel of Ukraine, a man who really does so much that I would cannot count the contribution he paid to Ukrainian independence and freedom. Mr. Yuddy Chrisnandi, Professor Yuddy Chrisnandi, my dear friend, Yang Mulia Bapak Duta Besar Indonesia di Ukraine. Thank you very much. It's I'm deeply appreciate. I'm touched with your contribution to this. During these days, every day I have many meetings and have many interviews and conferences. There is some annoying sound of clinking. What is this? I don't know what it is. It's like very annoying. And when the people ask me to deliver a speech, I don't know what to say, because it's so many happenings in Ukraine these days. And that's why I prefer if we have the discussion and we have the questions, I would answer the questions, because my main purpose of all this to deliver the truth to the people in Indonesia, to let them know what happens really, in fact. And maybe what I am going to say is not something they want to hear. That's why I just be very brief. I'll be very concise on that, and I will love to have questions after this and to have the little time to answer them. So basically what happened in Ukraine now is I would describe it as my colleagues, diplomats do, as humanitarian catastrophe. What happens there is the atrocities committed against the civilians of Ukraine by Russian invaders. What happens there is the bombings and shelling of civilians, of the houses, of the peaceful cities of Ukraine. And what is the most outrageous fact here is that Russian propaganda denies all this. They say to the world in cold blood that nothing happens. I mean, we're just protecting people somewhere in the east of Ukraine, but all Ukraine is in fire. The whole Ukraine is in fire. I'm not speaking like a diplomat. I'm now speaking as a father and a husband and a son of people who stayed there in Ukraine, in Kiev. They never moved anywhere. They want to stay with the people together. My wife, my 3 kids, my mother, my in-law and the grandmother, and everybody, every friend is there. And I must say that, so I have the first-hand information of what happens there. And I must say that it is not a war of Russian army against the Ukrainian army. It's the war of Russian Federation against Ukrainian nation. Because what is the purpose of dictator Putin is to eliminate Ukraine, is to annihilate this nation, which is very different of what we could think as a war, because it's in its simple meaning, because when you fight the nation, you should be prepared that the nation will resist, the nation will fight, the nation will never forgive you for the crimes against humanity and the atrocities you committed during your aggression to Ukraine. So what happens now? The cities are under bombardment from Russian artillery and missiles. The some cities, small towns in Ukraine are occupied by the invaders. And it doesn't happen only just in the east, all over Ukraine. It doesn't mean that we are not fighting back. It doesn't mean that we are weak and we are like sort of going to surrender. Never. It never going to happen, because it's very simple. The nation is fighting back, from the kids to the elders and to the people, disabled people on wheels. They are fighting now. They are preparing those who cannot do anything like directly combat on field. They prepare the Molotov cocktails. They prepare the camouflage for Ukrainian armed forces. They sew tents. They donate blood for wounded, and it is the nation that rose now. And I would say that there was a lot of sad joke recently that the military, the head of military assembling point in Ukraine somewhere, the colonel of something, he stood up and said, "What happens in this country when it comes to the the military service, regular military service? Everybody is sick, everybody is ill, everybody is not able. But when it comes to the war, the fighting, everybody is able, everybody is healthy. Like people who have just come with literally without liver or without something, they go fighting, they go volunteering, and my perception is this nation never going to fail." What is also important to state here is that the purpose of dictator Putin is very clear. He never acknowledged, never recognized the right of Ukrainian people and the right of Ukraine to exist. For he mentioned many times in his speeches and interviews that Ukraine is no state, it's like non-existent state, is understate, sort of, and Ukraine is anti-Russia, something that imposes threat on Russia. And I would say, yes, now Ukraine imposes threat on Russia, because ideologically we already won, and militarily we will defend our land to the last drop of blood of every one of us. And it is not easy to combat the 40 million nation. Today I just looked into my files and I found the interview of the General Johar Dudayev. Maybe you can remember him. He's the great general, great leader of the Chechen people of the Ichkeria Republic and the first president of Ichkeria in Russian Federation, who was treacherously killed by Russian authorities at that time. But the point is not this. In 1995, he gave an interview to whatever media, and he stated, it's like 2 minutes interview, and he stated that, yes, now you'll face the situation when it will be a war in Crimea, and it will be massive clashes between Russia and Ukraine in future. It's inevitable because Putin will never give up, and Russia will never give up Ukraine. But he just, well, that was the message of like what, near 20 years old, 30 years old, near 30 years old, to the Russians, that don't forget, I know Ukraine, I served in Ukraine, I know Ukrainian people. If they are deprived of their rights, if they are have their lands occupied, they always come back. And those who occupy their land would regret seriously, severely, that they did it. So I think my little speech will be ended like this, because my primary goal of this in this event, in this conference, is to tell everyone, please do not trust the lies of Russian diplomacy. Please do not trust the lies of Russian propaganda, because I know Indonesians as proud people, as people with history, as people with the spirit for independence and freedom. And if people of Indonesia know the truth, they will really say something. And I want the voice of Indonesia, of this great country, of this global force, to be heard worldwide, because no one would dare to ignore the voice of Indonesia, would dare to ignore the position of Indonesian people, of Indonesian government. And to, my purpose is to deliver the truth. And, everyone here who reads in Bahasa, obviously, right? You can just check the internet. There are plenty of publications now. There are plenty of files, of pictures, of videos of those crimes committed by Russia, committed by Russian army. And maybe finally, I would say that the great proof of Ukrainian people not wanting war and wanting peace, and never going to commit the war crimes against humanity and everything, is that these soldiers come here and kill our children, kill our wives and sisters and brothers. And when they are captured, they are fed, they are medicated, they are given telephones to call the mothers and say they're in captivity in Ukraine, and eventually they'll be sent back. No tortures, no executions, because Ukrainians are different. And I'm proud I'm Ukrainian, I'm proud we are different from those who came to my land and try to burn this land because of the dreams of the mad dictator.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Merdeka, merdeka atau mati.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vasyl. Very inspiring and very informative. I would like to go to Ambassador Yuddy. Maybe you can explain how Indonesia can play a role in this conflict. I don't know. Please, Ambassador Yuddy, floor is yours.
Spasiba balsue, moderator, dobre večer. Pan posol Vasyl Hamianin, moj lucy drug. Izvinice umenia pasvolci menje pagavarit Indonesia jazyk, потому что много людей нужно поменять ситуацию украинской сейчас. Izinkan saya, karena sebagian besar yang hadir di sini adalah masyarakat Indonesia, jadi agar saya bisa mengekspresikan informasi saya dengan clear, saya tadi minta izin kepada sahabat saya, Ambasador Vasyl Hamianin, untuk menggunakan bahasa Indonesia, dan sebagai informasi kepada teman-teman sekalian di Lesperssi bahwa beliau ini juga fasih berbahasa Indonesia. Beliau sudah belajar banyak sebelum beliau tiba di Indonesia. Dia sangat mengerti Indonesia, sangat paham budaya Indonesia. Beliau ini PhD di bidang sejarah Eropa Timur. Saya menjadi duta besar 4 tahun 6 bulan 9 hari. Kesan saya dari pertama kali saya tiba di Ukraina hingga saya meninggalkan Ukraina, bahwa Ukraina adalah negeri yang sangat cinta damai, masyarakatnya sangat toleran, hospitable, helpful, terus kooperatif, seperti halnya di Indonesia, sama, mereka sangat membantu, tidak ada sara, tidak ada rasis kepada orang asing, sangat toleran di dalam kehidupan beragama, tidak hanya pada tataran para pimpinan-pimpinan tinggi pemerintahan Ukraina, namun perilaku kebersahajan ini selayaknya seperti orang kita di timur merupakan sebuah tabiat dari masyarakat Ukraina pada umumnya, baik di perkotaan dan di pedesaan. Sehingga negeri dengan luas wilayah yang tidak lebih dari 500.000 km persegi, dengan penduduk yang kurang lebih 43 hingga 45 juta saja, yang penduduknya cinta damai, yang dalam perjalanan sejarahnya Ukraina ini selalu ingin menjadi negara yang merdeka, negara yang berdaulat, ingin menentukan nasibnya sendiri, tidak masuk dalam sebuah logika nalar kita apabila Ukraina ini menjadi ancaman negara manapun, terlebih menjadi ancaman bagi satu negara yang jumlah penduduknya 3 kali lebih besar, 3 kali lipat lebih besar dari Ukraina. Seperti Rusia itu penduduknya lebih dari 150 juta dan luas wilayahnya berkali-kali lipat dari Ukraina, 17.250.000 kilometer persegi lebih, ya, 2 kali lipat dari luas wilayah Indonesia yang sekitar 9 juta kilometer persegi. Bagaimana mungkin sebuah negara seperti Ukraina menjadi ancaman bagi negara Rusia? Jadi kalau pada hari ini kita menyaksikan tindakan Rusia melakukan invasi kepada Ukraina, bukan saja sebuah illogically conduct dari satu pemimpin negara di zaman yang sudah serba modern ini, di mana hak asasi manusia, nilai-nilai perdamaian, kerjasama global menjadi sesuatu kebutuhan interaksi global antar negara, diwarnai dengan sebuah tindakan-tindakan ofensif menggunakan kekerasan dan peperangan, bukan hanya sekedar melanggar hukum-hukum internasional, ya, melanggar United Nations Charter pasal 2 ayat 4 mengenai penggunaan kekerasan, larangan terhadap agresi militer, penghormatan terhadap kedaulatan negara lain, tetapi ini sudah melanggar nilai-nilai kemanusiaan dan martabat satu bangsa, sehingga dengan alasan apapun tidak bisa dibenarkan. Kalau ada dispute, ya, atau ketidaksukaan Rusia kepada pemimpin Ukraina, bukan berarti membenarkan untuk melakukan invasi militer. Kalau ada permintaan, misalnya ya, ada warga negara Australia di Indonesia yang kemudian merasa tertekan oleh pemerintah Indonesia, terus dia minta bantuan pemerintahnya, apakah membenarkan pemerintah Australia untuk datang memerangi Indonesia? Kan tidak demikian. Saluran-saluran diplomatik yang bisa ditempuh dengan cara-cara damai untuk menyelesaikan sengketa-sengketa seperti itu. Jadi kalau persoalannya tidak misalnya Rusia kepada Ukraina karena mendaftarkan diri jadi anggota NATO, bukankah Rusia itu anggota G20 yang memiliki forum bersama negara-negara besar lainnya? Ada pemimpin NATO yang jumlahnya 30 kepala negara berkumpul di antara 20 negara-negara besar ekonomi dunia itu yang dia bisa bicara, dia bisa melakukan lobby. Ada 24 negara-negara masyarakat ekonomi Eropa, di mana Rusia juga memiliki forum ekonomi yang sangat kuat dengan Jerman dan Perancis untuk proyek yang sangat strategis dan sangat besar, ya. Ini mungkin proyek energi terbesar di dunia, Nord Stream 2. Bisa bicara di forum itu. Kenapa harus dengan melakukan invasi yang melanggar hak-hak asasi manusia, melanggar prinsip-prinsip hukum internasional, melanggar nilai-nilai perdamaian? Biasanya orang yang tidak bisa diajak dialog itu ya dalam pendekatan psikososiologi adalah orang yang pengetahuannya kurang, ya, orang yang tingkat emosinya tidak stabil, sehingga ketika dia emosi tidak bisa diajak berdialog, maunya langsung berkelahi, dan ini pasti melanggar hukum. Nah, kalau ditanyakan mana posisi pemerintah Indonesia, saya yakin semua yang hadir di sini orang-orang yang sangat terpelajar, paham hukum internasional, paham logika berpikir kemanusiaan, paham arti perdamaian dunia, paham apa yang disebut dengan politik luar negeri yang bebas dan aktif, bagaimana harus bebas, bagaimana harus aktif, paham mengenai hubungan-hubungan internasional, paham visi bangsa dan negara untuk mewujudkan perdamaian dan kedamaian yang abadi, paham mengenai konstitusi negara yang mengamanatkan bahwa salah satu tugas pemerintahan adalah menjaga ketertiban dunia yang berdasarkan perdamaian dan kemanusiaan. Saya yakin kita semua satu posisi berdiri dalam hal ini. Jarak Indonesia dengan Rusia dan jarak Indonesia dengan Ukraina itu sama. Tidak ada yang lebih dekat, tidak ada yang lebih jauh, kedua-duanya sahabat kita. Nah, kalau kedua sahabat kita bertikai, tentu kita harus berperan untuk mendamaikan mereka. Kalau salah satu sahabat kita yang bertikai ini, kita tahu kesalahannya, maka kita harus tunjukkan kesalahannya di mana. Karena yang namanya netral itu bukan berarti berdiri diam, manakala kita tahu kesalahan ada di kiri dan kebenaran ada di kanan. Maka kita harus berdiri sebelah kanan, bukannya tetap di tengah. Ya itulah konsistensi daripada netralitas itu sendiri. Nah, kalau bagaimana cara mewujudkannya, Kementerian Luar Negeri Indonesia ini kan orangnya pinter-pinter, ya, diplomat-diplomat yang konon katanya berpengalaman, ya, hebat-hebat. Tentu tahu caranya bagaimana harus mengekspresikan ini, ya, mengekspresikan social capital Indonesia, kekuatan diplomasi kita sebagai pemimpin negara ASEAN, katanya begitu, yang memimpin lebih dari 550 juta ASEAN Community. Indonesia juga memiliki portofolio diplomasi sebagai negara pendiri gerakan non-blok. Seluruh dunia tahu non-alignment movement itu motornya adalah Indonesia. Seluruh dunia juga menghormati Indonesia sebagai negara dengan penduduk muslim terbesar di dunia, di mana penduduk muslim juga ada di Ukraina dan juga ada di Rusia. Cukup besar komunitasnya dan memiliki hubungan yang cukup baik. Indonesia juga sekarang memegang keketuaan atau presidensi dari G20. Jadi itulah portofolio kekuatan diplomasi politik Indonesia yang kita semua sebenarnya tahu harus memerankan seperti apa, harus bersuara seperti apa, harus mengambil langkah-langkah diplomasi internasional apa, harus bicara bagaimana dengan United Nations. Kalau kita tahu Security Council tidak memungkinkan untuk menyampaikan resolusi karena ada yang memiliki hak veto, kita memiliki instrumen lain, yaitu General Assembly, dan inisiatif itu bisa saja dilakukan oleh pemerintah Indonesia. Ada juga cara lain, misalnya memberikan dukungan-dukungan kemanusiaan yang diperlukan oleh masyarakat Ukraina yang menjadi korban daripada invasi Rusia. Banyak cara dan peran yang bisa dilakukan oleh pemerintah kita, dan posisi Indonesia ini adalah posisi yang cukup strategis. Kita ini bukan anak buahnya Rusia, kita bukan anak buahnya Amerika, kita bukan anak buahnya Eropa, bukan juga anak buahnya Ukraina. Kita ini adalah negara yang merdeka, yang mencintai perdamaian, dan kita mengetahui prinsip-prinsip perdamaian itu dalam konteks nilai-nilai universalisme. Jadi kalau saat ini ada satu negara yang mengancam negara lain, maka itu adalah ancaman bagi kita juga, bagi perdamaian dunia. Saya yakin tidak semuanya tahu di sini bahwa jalur perdagangan laut terbesar di Laut Hitam, pelabuhan terbesar untuk bisa masuk kawasan Ukraina menuju ke Eropa, di mana 90% lebih komoditas ekspor Indonesia itu masuk dari Odessa. Odessa ini tidak ada kaitannya dengan konflik bersenjata separatisme yang diributkan oleh Rusia di wilayah timur. Odessa ini di selatan. Tapi Odessa dihajar menggunakan misail. Yang terjadi apa? Kegiatan di pelabuhan jelas terhenti. Aktivitas perdagangan terhenti. Kapal dagang Jepang dirudal dan dimisail. Akibatnya pasti mengganggu Indonesia, pasti mengganggu negara-negara lain. Saya bisa memastikan dalam waktu yang tidak terlalu lama, anjlok itu nilai perdagangan dan devisa kita. Nah, inilah konsekuensi-konsekuensi yang dihadapi oleh dunia saat ini. Serangan invasi baru berlangsung 1 minggu, harga minyak dunia sudah anjlok di angka di atas 105 US dollar per barel pada saat ini. Minyak gas cair dunia sudah di atas 5,35 ya. Lalu kemudian banyak implikasi-implikasinya. Kalau kemudian pasokan energi itu dengan demand yang tinggi, suplainya terbatas, maka dalam jangka waktu yang cukup lama apabila situasi ini tidak diselesaikan, perang tidak dihentikan, invasi tidak dihentikan, akan berujung pada krisis energi di Eropa dan ujungnya kepada dunia. Belum lagi krisis keuangan, aset-aset dan transaksi keuangan Rusia ini sudah diblok oleh Amerika Serikat dan berfungsi secara efektif. Rubel tidak bisa ditukar lagi oleh dolar dan bank sentral Rusia tidak bisa bertransaksi di global institution. Dampaknya saat ini mungkin untuk Rusia, tapi besok-besok semua yang memiliki link perdagangan dan ekonomi dengan Rusia akan terganggu juga. Jadi situasi ini mengganggu perdamaian dunia, mengganggu kerjasama ekonomi global dunia, mengganggu banyak hal di mana dunia harusnya sekarang berkonsentrasi untuk bekerja sama mengatasi pandemi yang dihadapi sebagai musuh kemanusiaan bersama. Nah, inilah sebuah ironi ya. Di sebuah peradaban modern ada satu negara yang menggunakan cara-cara kekerasan untuk melampiaskan ya perbedaannya dengan negara lain. Kalaupun Ukraina ingin menjadi masyarakat ekonomi Eropa, dia ingin memilih bergabung dengan NATO, apa masalahnya? Dia kan negara yang merdeka. Rusia juga negara yang merdeka.
Sorry, Ambassador, I think I should cut short and I will move on to you again. I will because we have limited time running of time. I would like to move on to. Thank you very much, Mr.
Okay, that's enough.
I will thank you. I will before I move to Lyle, Mr. Ambassador Yuddy said that any invasion to Ukraine is unacceptable. This is should be the problem because this is a violation really of international law. So also against the humanity. Before you move, I think I would like to know whether that you Lyle, what is behind the motivation of Putin to? Because I heard that from many news that he always make excuse that because Ukraine want to join NATO, that's why he's feel threatened. That there will be weapon, there will be arm of NATO in Ukraine. Can you explain to us, or what's the background why Putin is invading Ukraine? Please, Lyle. Floor is yours.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. I'm extremely honored to join the group, and it's really been I think for all of us in the world and for all who care about Eastern Europe and Ukraine in particular, we're extremely sad, and I join everyone in condemning the invasion in the strongest terms. I think I can speculate on Putin's motive some in a second. Maybe I'll make a couple of other points first, but I'll watch the time very carefully. But I think first and foremost, we have to unite and condemn, what is truly outrageous and is, and think of the poor people of Ukraine. And, I think the worst is yet to come, of course. But in, how many orphans and innocents will die? It's horrible to contemplate, and I think Russia has to be punished very severely, and I think that's happening. And certainly from an economic point of view, but you can already see that things that Putin would want to achieve, weakening of NATO, that the opposite is occurring. So it seems to be very contrary to whatever his goals are. I think I can make some other observations about the war. I'm mostly a military analyst, so I'm looking very closely at how the war is unfolding. And I think one observation we can make right away is that Russia, well, first of all, let's recognize the bravery of Ukrainian troops in resisting. It's incredible witness. I think the whole world is witness to their bravery. But also, I think we may also say that Russia is maybe weaker than many thought, and that is also interesting to contemplate for strategists. I do to speculate some on Putin's motives here. I would say, in my view, though, I think we can say the war could have been avoided. That is my opinion, and I myself have worked on various peace proposals related to Ukraine and the Donbass and so forth. And anyway, that while the war is going on, it's sort of a, in a way, it's what we would say is a moot point. It's almost not worth discussing. But it concerns me that I think this is a war that didn't have to be fought. I think the main goal now, though, should be, at least for outsiders, has to be on preventing escalation. And I'm deeply concerned about the signaling with respect to nuclear weapons that's going on. So to me, a main concern of the United States, other than getting what help to Ukraine that we can, and I know my country is trying to contribute as much as we can to help the Ukrainians, but I think to step back from the immediate war, it's very important to consider how to prevent a bigger war, a war that engulfs all of Europe or the world. Quickly on Putin's motives, I think it's hard to step into his head. I think it could be true that he is developed kind of in an irrational direction. He may be surrounded by people who only agree with him or tell him what he wants to hear. That's a major problem. But I do think his objective, though, is to neutralize Ukraine, to make sure that it's not any kind of threat, as the ambassador said. We can talk about what specifically were his issues. I would just end my comments by saying that maybe too early to discuss the implications for the Asia Pacific, but I know we're all deeply interested in that, and I think there are implications for Asia. I do a lot of work on China, and unquestionably, China is watching this very closely, and China's role in sort of supporting Russia as I believe they have a quasi-alliance. I'm writing a book on this quasi-alliance, so it's very interesting to see what China will do to support Russia. I think we have to say that this is an enormous distraction for the United States. Distraction in the sense of, the United States was trying to focus on China, and if you will, I set a timer to be sure I would finish, but to try to confront China in the Asia Pacific. But I think this will certainly pull away a lot of our thinking as we focus on Ukraine, and unquestionably, people are talking about Taiwan an awful lot and wondering if Taiwan will suffer a similar fate. Thank you very much, and once again, I would just underline how terrible this is, and that we should condemn it in the strongest terms.
Thank you, Lyle, I think, for your short introduction. I think this is good. I think we can move on again to you. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Munadhil. What's happening in Russia, or what's going on in Russia that you feel right now, Munadhil, with regard to Ukraine?
Okay, first of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Lesperssi, Mr. Rizal, Mr. Beni, Mr. Ambassador Ukraine, Mr. Ambassador Yuddy, Doctor and Professor Lyle, for having me. But now I will have a little bit perspective from both of you, because I'm living in Russia from 2017. Actually, in Indonesia, Russian give a lot of scholarship, and So before I'm Russia, exactly, I thought Russian is a communist nation, and they are not like very good country. And then when I'm went there, I'm going to a lot of place, Moscow, Saint Petersburg, and Vladimir, Ryazan, and many places in Russia. That I thought that Russian is very modern country, and as you know, Russian also have a very good economic. First of that I'm saying. Second is when we talk about the war Russia versus Ukraine, that we must know that I don't know. For my perspective, it is like a war. Exactly, it could not be a war because it is a conflict before 8 years. There are conflict after 2014 after Crimea. I don't know. I would I not like a word annexation because Ukrainian no Crimean islands is got referendum, and most 19% they want to back to Russia. If I don't know if some of you check the geography or history about the Russian and about the Ukrainian, before they are one a kingdom, old kingdom, a very big kingdoms, Slovakian before Kiev Rus and etc. They are one nation, one blood from Russian and also Ukrainian. They are like a brother and sister actually. But before this war starts, Putin, we must like understand that Putin's statement that there are some problem and a conflict, a very serious conflict, and Russian want to make agreement 2 times, asked to Ukraine in Belarus in Minsk, but still failed. That's why maybe in statement first after make freedom of to territory Donetsk and Luhansk, he said that he wants in Ukraine it must be demilitarization and denazification. What it mean? It is very important that we I don't know, some of we, because a lot of media is controlled by Western, so we cannot clearly understand that what happened in Donetsk, in Donbas district. You can also search about war in Donbas, old conflict that is not there's some place pro Russia because as I don't know, I discussed with a lot of professor in here. This territory is given by Lenin before. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Ambassador can control. Maybe can discuss about this. This district is given by Lenin before, and then after USSR going separated, that then it's be something like Ukrainian people and then some pro-Russian people, and also it's something complicated. So I guess for me, first, it is like an internal, like a conflict internal, not when they can be solved by negotiation. It can be, it will be not war first. The second, and then we must know that Putin also concerned about the issue in NATO. The NATO is, I don't know what happened with this issue, because NATO is a counter of Soviet Union, right? But the question is, Putin also, some of the professor questioning why is NATO still happen in now. It's a big question. And also about NATO, if you flash the issue of the war in Georgia before, I guess it's a bit similar. In Georgia, if you the issue in Georgia 2018 that Georgia want to enter the NATO. Also, Russia attacked Georgia, but you must know that Tbilisi, Russia didn't attack Tbilisi, and it has happened only 5 days. Russia attacked only military territory. That's why I guess because I watch not only American perspective and I don't know Western perspective in media. I'm also watch RT News, Al Jazeera, and some other lot of media. So when we understand that if I don't know President Zelensky want negotiate and before yesterday there was a negotiation right with Russian and Ukrainian, but the problem is it's failed. It's failed because Putin wants first demilitarization, and the second is he wants. I guess it will be not a big war if Russian and Ukraine have same perspective. For me, and now also the fourth, I have one the media propaganda in here. I'm very sad that media is make worse conflict, conflict and confrontation now, because before I don't know BBC maybe make a lot of disinformation about this, because my dissertation is about the fake news. That's why I'm very media also make this conflict is very bigger and very worse. I guess if like his media like show the real condition and not make worse, it will be not.
Okay, sorry, Munadhil. I would like to cut short this because we are running out of time. I would like to move on to Mr. Ambassador Vasyl, because if we read the news, many news I think since 2008 and 2014, the Vladimir Putin always make a statement that if Ukraine join NATO, that would be a direct threat to Russia. Can you make a comment on that?
Yes, I can make very straightforward comment on this. First of all, I would like to make comments on the speech of my young friend, Mr. Munadhil. I don't know how young he is, but I'm telling you and telling the esteemed participants, I'm 50 years old. I was grown up in the Soviet Union, and I have the PhD in world history. And it's not only the Eastern Europe, it's also history of China and the Southeast Asia. And what I listen from you is the result of Russian propaganda. Now I say two first. First one, nothing can justify the war and killings of civilians. And I think you must remember this. Nothing can justify the killing of civilians on the territory of the other state, sovereign state. And no excuses can be accepted that someone mad Putin is afraid of something NATO, and that's why he starts killing people in Ukraine. How can it comes to the mind of anyone in this world? Nothing can justify this. That's one thing. Another thing, I don't want to talk about the history of the fraternal, of brothers and all this stuff, because obviously, I must say that I understand this better, right? So give us the opportunity to find and to fix who is the brother of who, right? I understand that it's a Russian propaganda and it's very obvious. Then, I mean, the Putin is concerned and he wants Ukraine to demilitarize. That's why he attacks Ukraine and he kills the people there and he kills the men and women and children. This is the story you're telling us. about the concerns of Putin. Now, what about the NATO? I repeat, and I would repeat this again and again. Indonesia has the right to choose the way of development. It has the right to choose whom to cooperate with, whom to start the strategic partnership. If Indonesia wants to become the strategic partner of Russian Federation, no one would say a word, because this is the decision of Indonesian government and nation. And Ukraine has the right to decide whether to be with NATO or to be with Russia. This is clear, I think, and it's a right of every nation in the world to choose whom to be with. And the Ukrainian nation, I'm telling you, young man, has been fighting for freedom from Russia for 300 years. It was not the brotherhood, it was fight for independence. Like Indonesia fought for independence for 300 years from Belanda. This is the war that lasted more than 300 years. So about NATO concerns, I would say that Ukraine decided to be within NATO for a good reason. And reason I just try to justify. Because only threat we have now, and only threat we used to have for many years, is Russia. That's why the NATO could be the sort of not a shield, but the good partners and good friends that, like it's good. It's well said in Garuda Pancasila, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. We are different nations, but we're united under the same shield, same group, same ideology. We want peace. And NATO, if you read the charters of NATO, it says that NATO is defensive and not assaulting. It's not going to attack. NATO has always been the organization to protect peace after the Second World War, after the Nazi aggression to Europe, after the huge scale atrocities against humankind, against humanity. What is NATO about? Really, if you read the documents, I mean, tell Russians to read the documents and to, speak out. What is it? What is this? Because I hear Lavrov and Putin telling us, well, we love Ukrainians. It's one nation. It's our brothers. And then the next day they kill sort of hundreds of people by attacking the peaceful cities. This doesn't work. Just think about it. And I know what happens to the students that go to Russia for studying. Because I grown up in this environment. I grown up in Soviet Union. And it was really bad. Really bad. Brainwashing and all this stuff. Sorry, I may be very emotional, but this pains, this hurts on my skin. Did I answer the question about NATO?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Vasyl. I would like to move on to Lyle. Can you comment on that? My comment is Putin say many times in 2008, 2014, when Ukraine joined NATO, there would be direct threat to Russia. Can you comment on that, Lyle?
Right. Very briefly comment on this. It's very important. It's crucial.
I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think he's asking me to comment.
Lyle. Yeah, Lyle, please.
Yeah, sorry, if you please. Well, I think the ambassador makes a lot of good points, and it's definitely, if you look at all the NATO documents and so forth and the record, the organization is a peaceful organization generally, and very, and is not. I think objectively, and this is why I mentioned rationality, is because objectively, I think the forces, the activities in Ukraine and so forth were not, of an offensive nature at all, and did not pose really any threat to Russia from a national security point of view. However, I have to say, well, I don't think we should accuse students of being brainwashed. I think that's wrong. But to me, the point made by the student Munadhil is is that there is a certain amount of irrationality in people's viewpoints, a kind of subjective aspect of thinking. And I think there's no question that Russians, in my view, are we could say almost paranoid to a high degree. And this is a fact of the history. And I think this affects a lot of people in Europe and in Eastern Europe. It makes them extremely, extremely sensitive to national security threats. And this is true in Asia too, to some extent. So there is a basis for this. And I do believe that it was a mistake by Ukraine to kind of seek NATO membership. But, you know, again, at this point, and I do agree with the ambassador, it doesn't excuse the use of force at all. And it's we still have to condemn this, and Russia should be punished. But at the same time, I do think, as we think about how to reach some kind of peaceful settlement, and that, you know, right now it's hard to contemplate that, but it probably has to involve a Ukraine that is neutral. That's my own viewpoint. I guess final thing I'll say is that, you know, NATO, Mr. Putin has done exactly, you know, he's creating a world that he says he's trying to avoid. That is, he's making NATO much stronger. Germany just doubled its defense budget, and NATO will be, is already kind of pushing arms into Ukraine and so forth. So this, clearly this is not a solution. It seems like Putin has lashed out and made a huge mistake.
I would like to take a question from the audience. This is Peter Carey to everyone. Maybe not a question, maybe just a statement. What is the way out for Putin? Because he seems to have backed himself in the corner, and the process imploded the Russian economy. Desperate men take desperate decision. I believe he will use his nuclear arsenal if he is going down to defeat. Can you make a comment or just respond, Lyle, and also Ambassador?
Could you maybe repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah. The question is from the audience. He said that.
Do you want me to repeat it?
Yeah. Yes, Putin is desperate man to take desperate decision, and I believe he will use his nuclear arsenal if he feel like he's going to defeat. He will use nuclear. Putin, can you make a comment on this?
Yes. This is something I'm looking at very carefully, and I'll just say, from what I've read, I mean, first of all, this has happened before. That is, Russian nuclear forces have been on alert before, even in 2014 and in 2008. And they do test very regularly, and they have been modernizing very rapidly, which is a major concern to the United States. I mean, I have 100% faith in the United States nuclear capabilities, and Russia knows that. So, you know, I think that they'll be very cautious on that. That said, though, I am concerned about this. We're going into territory that is not fully understood by strategists. You know, how, for example, how there's something called a tactical nuclear weapon, which is a smaller weapon, and the Russians have invested a lot and have a lot of these weapons. And I think there is a grave concern that if let's say that hostilities escalate on the Polish-Ukraine border, with respect to transferring weaponry and so forth, I am quite concerned that the Russians, in a last resort, may resort to some kind of small use of nuclear weapons to simply to make the point that they are ready to escalate. And so I do believe, for the point of view of global European security, we have to avoid any kind of resort to nuclear weapons. Last thing I'll say is that the United States could have counter-escalated. That is, we could have put all our nuclear forces on alert to send out more submarines, put more bombers into the air and so forth. I'm told that the Biden administration decided not to do that, and I'm glad. I think we have to show that we are not going to fight a nuclear war over Ukraine. We should not do that.
Okay, maybe for everyone, I think I would like to address. There's a question from audience. What is the most effective the international world can do? Maybe is the European Union or United Nations to diffuse this? Because I expect from your opening speech, Mr. Ambassador, Your Excellency Vasyl, that you expect that Indonesia and the other country that would like to have more voices, more firm voice with regard to invasion. What do you expect from the world? Maybe Mr. Vasyl. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, I will be very brief and not so emotional. I'm sorry about that, but this is like pains, they hurt. May I make two small remarks on the nuclear stuff? First of all, I appreciate that United States didn't deploy the state of alert and everything. It's good, and nobody expects and nobody wants the nuclear strike, and. But the two remarks are the following. First of all, it's for sure. Ukraine, I would not go for trading by Ukraine if the price for whatever he decides to do is Ukrainian everything, like lives of my kids. No, I would not go for this. And no one in Ukraine will go for this. Second one is this, if you have the madman with the nuclear arsenal in hand, anything can happen. This is the truth, and unfortunately, this is a very, very sad truth. Third one is about the how can we prevent this? And this goes directly to the question you just asked me.
Yeah.
Putin is a dictator, and he wants his will to be imposed on every state in the world. Like what he wants to do must be done, right? So what happens now is he has the oxygen pipe in his country, like the possibility to go on exporting things, earning money on oil and gas trade, doing something, having yachts and having a Ferrari somewhere in Europe, blah, blah, blah. So what the world can do to prevent this, really, it's simple, and it was declared by the European and United States governments. First of all, the sanctions should directly target the close friends and the families of the friends of Vladimir Putin. When they are deprived of the right to use money, to use yachts, to go to Europe and to go to United States, when they only can stay in Russia, I think that Mr. Putin will be strangled in bed by his close friends, like it happened in Russia many, 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 many times. And about the oxygen pipe, I would say that if the nations of the world stand up and say a strong word of condemnation of this aggression, then he cannot ignore it. My main concern is about China. I spent 10 years in China, and I have been researching China for 30 years. I'm Chinese speaker and everything, but my main concern is China because it's the biggest oxygen pipe for Putin now. If China just closes this gate, then Putin will surrender definitely. He will not surrender because but he will stop. And Indonesia, as I repeat, is the big world power. It's I would say it becoming a global power because it's not just regional leader, right? I've been looking very closely for the presidency of watching very closely the presidency of Indonesia in G20 and the goals they set and the policies they declare and the efforts they do. It's becoming a global power, and no one will dare to ignore the global power to stand up and say the strong words of condemnation of Putin's acts in Ukraine. That's what my position.
Thank you. I would like to take question. I would like to invite Mr. Who raised the hand? Mr. Gideon Martin, please. Gideon Martin.
Okay, thank you for your time. I'm sorry, pardon for my bad English, and Sorry, I cannot open the video. I understand that NATO is, like you said, Mr. Ambassador, defense organization, but we all know oftenly NATO used as a camouflage for US to build and expand its leverage by establishing military and weapon installation. And as example, you can see it when they invading Iraq. US built their military base in Turkey, which the closest NATO's member to Iraq. And that showed us that NATO has been tools for US to build their strategic power and leverage. So I get that your belief that NATO membership could help your country in various aspects, but do you really think, or are you that naive that NATO in Ukraine is just for defensive purpose? I believe you know better. It's about geopolitics leverage for them, for US and the allies, of course. I feel very sad about the situation that's going on in Ukraine, but I think you need to rethink or re-aim who needs to be blamed, because Russia is doing the necessary, in my opinion, sir, Russia is doing the necessary for their sovereignty.
Okay.
Because
Thank you, Gideon. Okay, maybe the ambassador can answer that. Thank you. Maybe,
Okay.
And I have to take after
just
this,
take
after
1
Mr.
minute.
Ambassador.
It will take 1 minute for my answer. First of all, I am going to repeat this again and again. Nothing will justify the atrocities the Russians commit in Ukraine. That's one. Second, it doesn't matter what I believe or not, whether you think NATO is dangerous or not, you cannot attack the sovereign state. You can ask and you can demand the security guarantees from NATO. It's okay. I'm fine with this. You can demand, you can negotiate, and remember that before the war in Ukraine and in Georgia in 2008, 2014, Russia had so large-scale cooperation with NATO. Lyle will confirm this. Huge cooperation, military exercises, the exchanges, everything. So Russia was very happy about cooperating with NATO, and never ever raised the issue of like threat or danger about this. So okay, we will decide our destiny by ourselves. We may even agree to like sort of thinking about not going to NATO. I repeat, the thinking about it, not just decided it. But the main thing is Russia violated two major documents, of course, a bit more, but the Budapest Memorandum, which gave us the guarantees of security after we refused of the third biggest nuclear arsenal. They secured they promised the security for Ukraine, and they violated it. Second one is they violated the treaty for peace and cooperation with Ukraine. And the charters of NATO, I will not talk about this. So anything can be talked, but the first thing, the first circumstance, the first requirement is to stop killing people. Stop this. And then any sort of negotiations are possible. No problems with this.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I would like to take one more and then we can wrap up. Isnandar, can you ask questions?
Can I have the word, Mr. Benny?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, maybe, I don't know, from my perspective, this war is still, actually, if Russian and Ukraine can get a deal, it will be over like only in Georgia, like five days. The second, Mr. Ambassador said that there are no like what Putin said about Nazification and demilitarization. What after Russia come to Ukraine and they free 18% water? What before that Ukrainian people close water supply to in Crimean people. This is something happen also. We must understand that there is a problem exactly in separatism in internal Ukraine. The first, but I want to take assure that I'm not agree with this war. I'm in this position. And the second, and we must also check very clearly how much what is Putin target in Ukraine. I guess it's still same. You can calculate Putin only destroy military system, and he wants government of Ukraine and have a solution because it's old conflict, you know. And second, for American and Western, I guess if American, what I hear about after Putin say that nuclear issues is after American gave a very, and EU Commission gave a very great sanction to Russian, and they didn't like sit with together and talk with this to discussion this issue to make issues cool down. So it's happened if sometime another country give artillery to Russian, and they will be war. It will be war like a Syrian if it still happen. So for my perspective, we must sit down and cool down. Don't make like this war is make worse, because if Russian also close this the gas from Europe, it will be very bad hit from Europe country. It's the price will be grow up, and then some people will be reactions. That's why we must like sit down and those countries we must like discuss a solution, a better solution, not like give Ukrainian people more gun. So it will be another war and make worse. This is I'm not pro Putin. I'm not pro Putin. I'm also because I'm have been here. I'm also study Russian history. That's why I'm understand about the Kiev rules and until now. I'm also not in doctrine Russian. I'm Indonesian, but I'm also get like in Russian get now after a sanction of SWIFT. We also have a problem in internal Russian. They took money and rush money, and because scared about this sanction. And if this still happen like this, Western make worse. I don't know if conflict will be worse, and I don't know if sometime maybe a very big happen, maybe World War III. So I guess all of Ukrainian, Russian, Europa, and American must cool down, because as we know, Russian have very close cooperate with BRICS. If China help Russia, if India help Russia, and Brazil help Russia, and also North Korea help Russia. So
okay, sorry, Munadhil, I would like to cut short your I will move on to it because we are running out of time. I would like to invite Mr. Isnanda, just 1 minute question, and then we should wrap up of this. Okay, Isnanda, and we move on to Ambassador. Yeah, silakan.
Moderator, thank you very much, ambassadors. Ambassadors. Okay, I think it's the best stages for Indonesia to introduce what ASEAN do. It's the way we are the leader of G20. Mr. Lyle, 65, before 65, this area was in the gate of big war, Indonesia and Malaysia, and then we are very closely with other. I think it's a similar situation, Mr. Ambassadors, with Russia and Ukraine. So I think this is the best way for Indonesia. If you want, Ambassador Yuddy, we said we are leading the world. We have to show to leading the world how we solve the situation. Mr. Ambassadors, I'm sorry, I'm from PGSD, okay, President Graduate School of Diplomacy, but daily my job is to doing a war internationally. I do trade with Africa mostly. I do trade with East Europe. I do trade with Russia. Ambassador Vasyl, but we cannot be. We know the sovereignty for country to join any organization, but NATO is treaty organization. It's not economic organization. So when you join a treaty organization, it ring a bell. who will consider your enemy. I think if it happened in Jakarta, if suddenly Malaysia joined NATO, because it's after the 65, Indonesia will react. So I think this is where we have to make sure. So again, teman-teman, my friend of Indonesia, he would want to see that Babas actively lead the world. We show the world how we settle the conflict with Malaysia, and in ASEAN way, which is in my class. Sometimes we laugh about ASEAN, and anything happen, you just sit down and everything going down. But we settle it our way. I think this is the best way that what Indonesia can contribute to the world now. So that's all, moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rizkana.
Moderator, you are mute.
Mr. Vasyl, please. This is also including your closing remark, and we move to
1 minute.
Yeah, please.
For anyone who is talking about the Ukraine should refrain and things like that, and we don't like war and we concern and everything, I would tell one thing. You come back to Indonesia and talk to the elder people and say that, you know what, in 1945-49, you shouldn't fight for independence because there were concerns of Netherlands, there were concerns of other countries. You shouldn't become the member of the United Nations. Because you should calculate the concerns of the big nations and all this stuff. I would see what they do to you after you say this. So it's not about concerns of someone who is attacking you, who is killing your people. You should ask the Indonesian people, you should ask the Indonesian nation what it took them to fight for independence and why they did so. It was good, you know, like colonial status, okay, we're just working, we're just doing something. We don't want this colonial status for Ukraine. This is my answer. And what about NATO concerns? Okay, I'm telling you one and utmost. Stop killing Ukrainians. Then any negotiations are possible. This is the answer. Stop killing Ukrainian people.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I will move on to Lyle for your closing remark, and then move to Ambassador Yuddy. Yeah.
Right, well, I just want to thank the group for inviting me, and you know, I think it's very important, and I think there's some great points here made about the Indonesian experience and what it can share with the world, and you know, again, I just emphasize that I think Americans are with Ukraine, and we're horribly distraught, and hoping that things will that the war will end very soon, and that we must, you know, we must really guard peace in the world, and hope that we're able to find some compromise solutions. That's the only way forward. But thanks for having me.
Thank you, Lyle. Ambassador Yuddy, please, your closing remark. Mute, Pak. Mute. Unmute. Sorry. Mas Yuddy.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative to Mr. Goldstein and Ambassador Vasyl to give us the perspective, your point of thing for us, and sharing what happened in Ukraine on your own perspective, and what you would see our global world after this invasion of Russia in Ukraine. But I'm sorry, I would like to convey my message in Indonesian language to all of the audience, my dear friend, to make it more clear. The message that I stand up for Ukraine wide, as not just only as the former ambassador, because in the name of the humanity, in the name of international law, that I could remind all of the Indonesian people, it's not about just free and active Indonesian political international fora of diplomacy, but this is our position of our commitment regarding our constitution. Jadi untuk teman-teman sekalian, ya, saya sebetulnya sedikit agak malu ya diajari filsafat tentang kemanusiaan oleh Pak Duta Besar. Mungkin kita harus banyak belajar lagi tentang sejarah, tidak sepotong-potong, ya, sejarah dunia, dan dilihat dari berbagai macam perspektif. Namun yang kita diskusikan di sini bukan masalah sejarah, pendekatan geografisnya, tetapi sikap kita menghadapi sebuah tindakan invasi yang bertentangan dengan nilai-nilai kemanusiaan dan juga bertentangan dengan hukum internasional. Nah, mungkin itu yang mesti menjadi pegangan kita, bukan karena Ukrainanya, bukan karena Zelensky atau Rusia dan Putinnya, tetapi kalau hal itu terjadi pada Ukraina, hal itu pun bisa terjadi pada bangsa-bangsa manapun di dunia. Yesterday I watched CNN. I'm listening very carefully how the leader of the Kenya Republic in Africa to say that condemn very clearly on this invasion and aggression of Russia, because it's not treat just only the country in Europe like Ukraine, but it's a threat of the peaceful world. Jadi mungkin itu yang lebih penting. It will happen to any country. Jadi disitulah prinsip-prinsip universalisme kita untuk mengedepankan nilai-nilai perdamaian, mengedepankan dialog, dan lain sebagainya. Jadi kalau kita berbicara sejarahnya panjang sekali, ya, saya punya banyak sekali, mungkin saya ada 8 buku tentang the world history, ya, buku tentang sejarah Rusia saya punya banyak, cukup buku. Saya paham betul kota Novgorod, terus kemudian kota Kievan Rus, suku Rurik, ya, abad keberapa pertama kali dan sebagainya sampai dinasti Romanov yang terakhir. Tapi itu terlalu panjang. Bahkan ketiga negara ini pendiri Uni Soviet pasca revolusi Bolshevik 1917 sampai glasnost perestroika sampai penyerahan senjata nuklir kepada Boris Yeltsin, saya sangat hafal itu. Tapi bukan persoalan sejarah, tetapi adalah sekarang adalah persoalan sebuah bangsa yang diagresi oleh bangsa lain dan bagaimana sikap masyarakat internasional di mana Indonesia berada di dalamnya yang memiliki portofolio diplomasi dunia yang cukup besar. This is my closing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yuddy. Without further ado, I think I would like to close, but before that, I think I would like to very much thank you for all the prominent speakers, Mr. Ambassador Vasyl Hamianin, Mr. Ambassador Yuddy Chrisnandi, a long-time friend, Professor Lyle and Munadhil. I think we cannot stop here. I think maybe we can do some another webinar and another issue. I think this year I would like to appreciate also all the participants until now. There are 91 people come in our webinar. This very interesting time, and I think this is very informative webinar and very insightful. Okay, everybody, I think I'd like to end this and see you next time. Lyle, Mr. Ambassador Lyle, Yuddy, Mas Munadhil, thank you very much from the Moscow, and next to you. Everybody, thank you also Lesperssi team. Thank you very much. See you.
Iya, pakai.
Yuddy, Mas Yuddy.
Makasih.
Makasih ya. His Excellency
Semuanya.
Yuddy Chrisnandi,
Terima kasih.
Profesor Pak Raffendi Jamin, luar biasa nongol. Mas Munadhil, His Excellency.
Mas Reza.
Thank you
Terima
very
kasih
much
semuanya.
for your
Thank you.
Indonesian
Slava Ukraini.
participation.
Everybody who can communicate, you can contact me, no problem.
Oh yeah, yes. I will
Of course.
ask your number from
Thank you,
Mr.
Ambassador. Anyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Munadhil, contact me.
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
explain it to you, really.
Yes, we
This
can
is,
discuss more because
This
I
is
don't know.
different.
We can speak in a lot of perspective, but one I agree that war is not good for civilians. I agree for you.
Yes.
I'm
We'll
not.
talk to you. I would love to talk to you about the
Yes.
history.
And then when I'm back to Indonesia, we can meet Mr. Ambassador.
Okay,
Inshallah.
thank you.
Inshallah.
Thank you all audience. See you next time. Bye.
Terima kasih. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you.
Героям слава!
Thank you, sir.
Everybody, yes.
Slava Ukraini, Merdeka!
Heroyam Slav.
Ya.
Lumayan banyak juga yang hadir.